Hey, Planeswalkers, hope you're doing well and staying safe. I appreciate you tuning in for today's weekly series, Friday Night Meta, my friends, with yours truly, Meta Master Mythras. So very excited about that. I got it right. To bring you today several things. So one, we'll quickly recap. Two, we're going to talk about the beatdown for best of one and best of three, both in terms of win rate and popularity. And then additionally, we'll go ahead and talk about some of the key events that had a massive impact on this. Hint, hint. Many of you probably already know what that was. And then we'll close out with where things may be going, my friends. So appreciate you, like I said, tuning in. Flip me a like if you enjoyed today's video. Other great ways to support the channel down below in the description. In the details are those timestamps as well for you about all the stuff that we discussed. And then additionally, my friends, as always, appreciate that support. So if you do happen to have questions or comments throughout the video, let me know, or hop in the Discord server, my friends, because lots of things there. So to kick it off, in terms of recap, a lot is actually going to be changing. So this is pretty important to understand, particularly when we look at win rates, particularly when we look at popularity. Some of the biggest things, just to call out here quickly, is in particular for best of one, Sultai Ultimatum was within that top three realm of items, and we'll show some of these things down below in terms of a lot of things that were played. Mono Red had barely just kind of came back. Life gain as well was kind of fleeting. And then as we drilled into the upper echelons of the tiers here, I know some of you asked me that question about, hey, just show Mythic or Diamond from a competitive perspective. We'll do both because it does matter. And it's also just the lens. And I know many of you like to see that. And I also like to show some of the overtime trends and changes as well. So just a couple of things there, a little bit more detail. Obviously, if you go watch last week's episode, which will be linked down below, that you guys can check out if you want to do that ahead of time as well. And then when it comes to best of one, which was best of one and then best of three, some of the top decks that were starting to kind of creep up again were things like Rogues, and then Ultimatum still, and then we also had some of the cycle decks, and then Teamer as well. And then additionally, the win rates were a little bit different, but also tied into the particular decks that we were also speaking about, where those win rates begin to change pretty drastically in terms of counters, and also kind of begins to help you show some of those meta shifts, my friends. So that's a high level recap, fast and furious, and was looking forward to the impact of the events that we will discuss today in a little bit. So now in terms of the best of one beatdown, here's what we got going on. Season reset, so a lot of things are happening. We're going to look at this. So popularity and win rates here today: mono white aggro followed by life gain, Boros cycling, and then mono red. Dimmer Rogues is still in there, all high 50s. And then again, we still got that mono black auras deck. I owe you guys a video on that still. And then additionally, when we look at popularity, Rogues in that 2 spot. So that's a big one there, my friends. We see Sultai Ultimatum really falling off. And then if we drill up further, we'll go to Platinum because it's day one. And we'll see some of those things here as well. So similar style. What's interesting, though, is that you do see mono black auras in Platinum here kind of creeping up. So we'll keep an eye on those. It's also growing in terms of the meta played. Rogues is kind of doing some of those similar things. But I want to expand here and go down to kind of look at this collective picture. So where do some of these things pop? So everything just kind of falls down and evens out here. We'll see over the next couple days as some of those trends align and adjust. The biggest thing that you do want to see is what was going on before that. So we see mono red taking off. We see mono white life gain coming back. Dimmer Rogues coming up. We see Sultai Ultimatum falling a bit. We also see aggro falling. We see cycling leveling off. We see Adventures coming up from the Teamer side as well and kind of leveling off. And then we're also still seeing this reminiscence of a mono red aggro. Win rates again kind of drastically moving along with some of those things as mono red rises. Obviously it makes sense that mono white life gain rises, and then we're seeing some of these other indications here as well. Now, again, if we drill in at the higher level here, we'll go to platinum just because of all those changes. It exacerbates this even more. Mono red moving up, mono white. We see mono blue going, or sorry, not mono blue, rogues, ultimatum, aggro falling off, cycle falling off, teamer leveling out, and the mono red aggro as well. So very, very important to see that. We see the win rates here again. We also continue to see mono black auras, but again, this is today's snapshot in popularity today, where we have some of these trending things over time to keep an eye on as well. So big impacts, big movements. We'll talk about this here in a little bit. Also, I did hit top 1200 in best of one this month. Absolutely incredible run. I will do a video on that here shortly, probably in the next day or two, hopefully over the weekend, so that you guys can check some of that action out as well. Very, very excited about that, and I will talk about some of the key things that I adjusted within literally probably the last 2 hours before we ran out of time, that ultimately helped me get over the curve. So a lot of the stuff is here in the information, and you got to study it and you got to pay attention, and it does make a difference. So let's go over to best of three. One of the things I did forget to mention too in that timestamp was I will cover a top deck, and we will talk about how you beat that one or work around that one as well. So best of three here, again, a little less information, but still very telling. And there are some important things here to notice differently. Rakdos Sacrifice, even though it's got a less than 50% win rate, we want to keep an eye on this because it is a percentage of the meta. Again, this is overall. We'll talk about the other stuff here in a minute, but big key pieces. Win rate for mono red, snow aggro is high, Sultai Ultimatum still pretty high. We got Obosh, we got Gruul Adventures here, guys. Now keep an eye on this one. We have Sultai Ultimatum, mono red, and then dimmer rogues here as part of what happened. I think a lot of this is honestly just the reset, pulling in some of these things. But again, you can see this massive rise in mono red, massive rise in mono rogues, good rise in adventures, and a good healthy rise in Gruul Adventure. And best of three is really where we're going to see a lot of this momentum and this movement. Again, we've talked about the dichotomy this season, last season, between best of one and best of three really flipping. Now we're still, again, when we see some of these key events and indicators, you will see a gravitational shift towards some of those decks, which is absolutely what's happened, my friends. So very cool to see. Again, win rates are actually fairly steady, also somewhat decreasing, which is always interesting to see. You can see some things at the bottom end kind of flipping back up here, which is pretty important to kind of keep an eye on here. So we'll watch those things for you here, so just stay tuned, because that's the best way to get this information and understand some of these snippets. But we'll go pop over to platinum here and look at how things changed. Not too much, honestly, a couple in terms of what's popularity and what's changing in terms of played. Again, just astrobolic here, parabolic, whatever you want to call it, between mono red and mono blue. Team are kind of doing the same thing, and then Gruul Adventures. So all things, to be honest, that we were expecting, given what we'll talk about here in a second. So Planeswalkers, we talked about best of one, we talked about best of three, in terms of where things sit today. If you do have questions or comments, like I said, let me know, happy to help, or please feel free to hop in the Discord server. Flip me a like if you enjoyed this stuff. Now we're going to talk about a key deck, and one to pay attention to. So that one is going to be Gruul Adventures, my friends. So this week I did cover off on a key deck by Kushiro. Kushiro hit top 8. We'll talk about this in a little bit. More of a Gruul Food deck, but absolutely a very sweet deck, and that's kind of what we're hitting here too, and that's what you guys are seeing. So not necessarily true Gruul Adventures, but really that food. And here's what we're going to talk about today. Sorry, Kushiro, I'm going to give everyone the deck that is going to beat Gruul Adventures or Gruul Food. So here's what we got going on. When we look at the win rates here, very positive win rates against a ton of things. Let's flip over. Here's what we got. Mono white aggro. So this is going to be the key deck to take down the Gruul Food deck or Gruul Adventure deck here. Pretty important. So when we get to this in a little bit, we've noticed a massive absence of this deck. It's interesting that this was one of the key ones, to be honest, that I saw in terms of the food deck. A lot of it is just its variability on the ability to stick on the board and also kind of go over the top and do a number of other things relative to other decks that do cause damage, obviously, to the Gruul Food deck. So very, very interesting here. Love seeing this because it's important for us to understand some of these things, and particularly when you are walking in and playing an opponent, you have an idea of what the odds are in the match, and then kind of also how you need to sequence things to be successful or board things in to hopefully get a better opportunity in your matchup and lineup. So very, very cool to see this. I'll leave a deck down below for you guys that you can check out. I did do, I think, 1 or 2 versions of the mono white aggro deck. Absolutely incredible. Ran an awesome one here last season. So with that is how you're going to take down the Gruul Food deck. Nom nom nom. We'll call it a day. And now we'll move into the portion of the video where we are going to talk about some of the key events, my friends. So first off, big kudos to Arnie. Congratulations, Arnie. I know you did a great job. Awesome. Well done, not only between standard and historic there as well, my friend. I got a lot of things coming here. We're going to cover one of your historic decks, Orzhov Auras here. You guys can stay tuned for that, but I have had a blast with that one too. So congrats again, Arnie. But let's talk about some of the other key things here. And obviously Arnie's a big impact on that meta here. So couple things that are important. First, the top 8 bracket. Top 8 bracket, what we see: Adventures, Mono Red Aggro, Sultai Ultimatum, Teamer Adventures, Dimmer Rogues, Arnie right there. We also have our food deck by Kushiro, which is the one that we just talked about. And then we have Sultai Ultimatum again and Sultai Ultimatum again. So obviously the big 2 ones here at the top are Teamer Adventures, Sultai Ultimatum. But what's interesting that I do want to pivot over here to real quickly is the metagame. So when we look at the standard metagame, originally last week, what I found most interesting when we ran this was it was pretty reflective, actually, of what we found going into the Kaldheim Championship. And quite honestly, I was a little surprised. And I was surprised for a couple of reasons. I would have actually expected a little bit more of the unexpected, I guess, which is good to know, because I think this is, since I've been doing this, something that really is going to help shape a lot of our thought process in the future, and also kind of what Arnie talked about and why he played Dimmer Rogues would be a lot of the rationale for this. So if we now know that this breakout and the meta is very close to what's going on here, it's going to be very important in terms of how you're going to want to navigate in the future, and also some of the stuff that I'll talk about in my top 1200 again, and MQ qualifier, is just how you want to play it, how you want to read the field, and how you gotta play the meta. So very, very interesting to see. Obviously it's shifting. We'll continue to see it shift, and obviously the results are a big piece of that. So we'll hop back over the results. Obviously Arnie all the way. Congratulations again, Arnie, on the Dimmer Rogues. I think it was a great choice, knowing that choice was based off of not expecting a ton of aggro, which did not happen. We did see a mono red aggro here, and you did not have to face that, so that's a big one. And I love playing mono red aggro, and I have a particular version of playing it as well for Rogues decks. So that's a key thing there, everyone, in terms of this information and what we found in the tournament. The next piece of things that I do want to cover is back to over the standard metagame win rate. Obviously, we can talk about some of the historic stuff. I do plan to roll out some historic pieces in the future as well. But here, when it comes to our standard win rates. This is the big thing. Again, Sultai Ultimatum, even though it had a number of decks at the end, it still kind of remains to be one of those anomalies. 50% win rate, not the best, honestly. But here's what's pretty interesting. So Team Adventures still did very well, showed up well at the finals. This would have probably been one of my top picks or a hard counter to this pick, which we talked about Dimmer Rogues being the hard counter to Team Adventures, or at least the better of the two. Team Adventures obviously commanding a well-positioned win rate. Then we got Mono Red. Mono Red still didn't have a great showing. There's still a lot of stuff in the space that kind of pushes that out. Cycling continues to not do as well, and that was something also going in this meta. Rogues, let's talk about this here for a second. So Arnie, what I read, essentially chose this deck on the back that white aggro and mono red aggro was not going to be played as much. That is certainly what we found, and pretty important. Obviously, you can still win against those two, but if you constantly hit a deck that you're more apt to lose against, it's just odds that you're most likely going to actually lose. So very, very key call out there, and knowing that it runs well against all these other decks here is pretty important there. Now, a big one here is Gruul Adventures. So not only is mono white kind of falling back, Gruul Adventures Food, 7 of these, 59%. I've been saying Gruul is not a bad deck, and Kushiro's taken it beyond that and improved it, in my opinion, with the food deck. And we've talked about this. If you guys watched the video, top 50 with this one on Arena, refined it, worked well, top 8 here. Awesome. Good job, Kushiro. Awesome. So a couple key call outs there, you guys. Love it. I hope you guys enjoyed that section here, because it's pretty important, and certainly made a difference. So all these things are why you're seeing Gruul Adventures going up. You continue to see Sultai Ultimatum kind of flat. I mean, it still showed up. Team Adventures will continue to do well like we've seen. Mono Reds, a pure direct competitor to Dimmer Rogues, which is one of the reasons why you see that rise along with Dimmer Rogues. Dimmer Rogues will even these things out, and we'll continue to see these ebbs and flows in the meta, which is awesome, my friends. We talked about the natural progression, and here we are where a huge event has a massive impact on your play, and now we'll see how it falls out over the next couple of weeks here before we get to Strixhaven. So very excited about that. So where do we go from here, my friends? So again, let's flip back over the meta so you guys can see it. Here was the best of 3. Here was the best of 1 that we covered, and again, we got the platinum piece. So we talked about best of 1. Like I said, we talked about best of 3. We gave you the beat down, the low down in terms of win rates, popularity, the trends. We talked about how you're going to take down Gruul Food. Key deck to that, which is slowly receding, which is that mono white aggro deck. Pretty important to keep an eye on. Additionally, the spike in Rogues that was expected after Arnie's win. And we talked about the event impact, so of the Kaldheim Championship. So again, kudos, Arnie. Good job to all the top 8 competitors as well. I'm jealous, right? Wish I could play in it. Maybe one day. We'll see. Who knows? But aside from that, where do we go from here? So like I said, we got like 2 more weeks before Strixhaven comes out. I'm going to start diving into some of those cards. I know many of you asked me my opinions of those. Sadly, I haven't had time, but I know that we got to start prepping for that. And then additionally, there is a 5K qualifier event, I think, this weekend for SCG. So that's probably one of the big ones that could potentially have an impact. We'll see what happens. Again, probably going to align to a lot of these things that we're seeing. So people are probably going to be gunning for Rogues. I don't know. We'll see. Interested to see those results and kind of what comes from them. So Planeswalkers, with that said, as always, we covered a ton of stuff. I love being this weekly episode of Friday Night Meta with yours truly, Meta Master Mythras. And I can't wait till the next one. So during the week, stay tuned. We do a lot of top decks, lots of Twitch coming up, doing that as well. You guys can tune in. Love hanging out. We just got off that here before I went and did this video. So appreciate everyone's support always, truly. I really thank you. I don't take it for granted, and I love saying we got the best community. So please feel free to flip me a like if you enjoy it. Other great ways to absolutely support the channel down below. Appreciate that always in the details. feel free to ask comments or ask questions in the comments, or hop in the Discord server, my friends. Come hang out, say hi. Love to see you. So with that, that's our conclusion for today. You stay safe, stay safe, take care. We'll see you guys and gals soon. Looking forward to the next one and all the stuff to come, my friends. Mythras out.